Boom! We are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Life as a Chad YouTube channel. And I thank all of you for being here, wherever you may be. And of course, however you may be listening. So I've actually been meaning to react to this for the last week or so. I wanted to react to it last week, but unfortunately did not have the time. And it is something that, as a Christian man myself, an Orthodox Christian, much like one of the individuals that you're going to see in this video, that I have struggled with myself. And I have made a video on this topic, and it's definitely been an observation of mine. So the video that I'll be reacting to is Andrew Wilson from The Crucible, with this this guy. I think his name is RP, like Red Pill, something like that. You guys will see him momentarily. I looked for his YouTube channel. I couldn't find it anywhere. I don't think he has one. I think he's a TikToker, which is definitely something you see more and more often with kids from the Zoomer generation. But the just speaking for myself with some of these red pill channels, and I'm talking from my observation. One of the critiques that I have had is that you'll watch a clip from the Whatever podcast, and then you'll watch a clip from Fresh and Fit within the same week, and you'll see, oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes, literally the same, sometimes multiple girls who literally were just on Fresh and Fit. They flew across country and were on the Whatever podcast. And it does kind of give off this vibe of these OnlyFans girls being passed around the red pill sphere. And it kind of, just from an entertainment standpoint, it kind of becomes stale. It's like, man, we just saw this girl. We just saw, wasn't she fucking just over here? Didn't we just see her and her dumbass takes over here on Fresh Fit? Now we're seeing them on Whatever. So just from a purely red pill or excuse me, entertainment standpoint, it does kind of give off like a stale vibe. Um Now, granted, it probably is easier said than done to, especially if you have multiple shows throughout the week, to get a ton of different girls, especially if you're having hundreds and hundreds of shows throughout the year. I mean, if I had to guess, Fresh and Fit or Whatever, I mean, they have 3 shows a week, um 4 weeks, so that's 4 times 3, 12, 12 times I I mean, I can't even do it. I can't even do it. I mean, so realistically, let's do it. So that if they had, I'm gonna do the math real quick in my own head. No, I did have it right. So you have 3 shows per week, 4 weeks in a month, give or take every month. 12 times 12, because 3 times 4 is 12, 12 times 12, 144, give or take, shows throughout the year. That's a shit ton of shows. Okay. So in fairness, that is the case. But really, from the RP red pill kid that you're gonna see momentarily, from his standpoint, and I gotta say, I get it, because I have thought the same thing. At times, when you look at the thumbnail, which, let's go, just to be ultra good faith to him, let us look at the thumbnails. Let me get the thumbnails pulled up. And by the way, guys, I've had the same critique
Welcome
given
to
to
the
me.
Whatever Dating Talk podcast, where we try to
Oh
make
my
sense of the
gosh.
modern dating hellscape. Thanks for tuning.
I've had the same critique given to me because there's been some thumbnails that I've done. I don't think I've ever done one as provocative as a lot of these thumbnails. Like, the most I will do is like an obviously sexy girl. Like, I did one with a girl dressed in like workout clothes, and she's super fit, and but you only see her from like the backside, and you don't even, and it's kind of like a finger painting type, like it's not uh a real deal photo. It's kind of like an AI type photo. So I do understand the critique. I really do. But let's just to be good faith, let's see. Um da, 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 da. Oh, shoot. We got to go to his playlist because this dude's had a channel for a long time. Um, dang, dude.
Welcome to the Whatever podcast, coming to you live from Santa Barbara, California. I'm your host, Brian Atlas. I'm joined by
Jeez,
special
Brian.
guest.
Anyways, we're just gonna look at the front page here. Like, obviously,
Welcome to
it
the
is
Whatever Dating
a
Talk podcast, where we try to make
little provocative, and you know, the photos are meant to pull people in. They are definitely risque, but conversely, it is a dating podcast. You know, like whatever does not claim to be a Christian podcast. Now, what I would say though is while Brian definitely fresh and fit would, but while Brian doesn't, and the reason why I'm particularly pulling up Brian here is because the debate was centered around the Whatever podcast and the type of women that they have on, the sexually suggestive and explicit thumbnails that they have. Um, while Brian may not say that he is full on red pill, and I would not say that he is as outspoken on his actual beliefs as Myron or Fresh are from the Fresh and Fit. I feel pretty safe in saying that the current landscape, um, he pulls from a lot of traditional gender specific norms when it comes to what men find attractive in women and what women find attractive in men. And for example, what men tend to find attractive in women is modesty, femininity. Uh, and so one could make the case, as this guy, as you will see, does, by putting thumbnails like this on, you are contributing to the problem that you are trying to expose. Now, there are arguments against that argument, which you guys will see when I pull up the clip from the debate. But I just want to give you guys an overview of kind of what we're delving into here. But as you guys can see here, you definitely suggestive photos. These ones aren't bad. These are just the face shots. This one's got a little body in it. These are just face shots. This one's got the body in it, body photo. So not all of them are super explicit. We're going to see them in much smaller detail in the right-hand corner here. So they're not all super explicit, but they do have a few that definitely have what I would consider immodest photos and definitely some skin showing, some body showing, just a little bit of body showing. So, you know, now before we watch the video, just want to give you guys my preliminary take. As I have already said, I do see what the kid who's going to have the disagreement with Whatever podcast has. I do see what it is that he's talking about. It does seem at times that the very thing, because that's really the heart of the problem. Okay. Regardless of what Brian believes or not, the Whatever podcast exists to very broadly discuss intersexual and some political topics. Most of the time, anything that's political are things that kind of cross pollinate with intersexual dynamics. So that's broadly speaking, but really what it exists for, whether Brian believes it or not, the flavor or the mood of the podcast and who is brought on is the exposing of degenerate, modern Western, specifically intersexual dynamics, and really the modern female behavior. That's really what it exists for. So it does at times seem to run counterintuitive to that, some of the actions that they have. And one major one, besides the thumbnails that you guys will, it depends on the clip that I choose, is that they put the Instagram links of all the girls, as long as they stay throughout the entirety of the podcast, they will plug the Instagram link in the description. Now, personally, I don't think the Instagram link is as big of a deal as the thumbnail. I think the thumbnail is far more devious and deceptive and counterintuitive to the overall messaging of the podcast. I understand the Instagram link, because the Instagram link is just a necessity in order to have these people on the show. Now, you could say, well, these people, it doesn't, whether you put the Instagram link on or not is irrelevant, because at the end of the day, your podcast reaches a ton of people, and so that's really all they want, is for their faces to be exposed to a much greater audience. And if people are interested in them enough, they will find a way to find what their Instagram handle is. Okay, fair enough. I would say personally, I think the thumbnails are a little bit much, and personally, I don't like that the same girls seem to be passed around all the red pill channels. And sometimes there's like the same girl is on like 6 times for either Fresh and Fit or the whatever podcast in a span of a couple months. I think they should limit it to like 3 times in a year is the max amount that you can make an appearance on the whatever podcast, because anything past that, and it does run the risk of seeming like you are promoting and being an ad agency for that person. Now, with all of that said, you will find that I lean more with Andrew Wilson, in that at the end of the day, the type of people who are going to click on these girls' links and be interested in these links, by and large, by the by, are going to be very hard to reach. They have already fallen for the dark side. They are already on the dark side. You go on to a show to not necessarily reach them, although if you can reach them, great. It's just like a cherry on top. The people that you're trying to reach are the people who are in the middle, who are not totally on the dark side, but they're also not leading a full-blown Christian lifestyle either. They're kind of in that gray area. That's what you go on a show like that for. And broadly speaking, personally, I would say that the greater the audience that you can pull in, regardless of the thumbnail or the Instagram links or whatever, no pun intended, the bigger the audience, the better chance you will have in getting your message out, which at the end of the day is the goal. The goal is for people to hear your message, specifically to hear your message in combating of the degenerate, modern, liberal, globalist agenda. Okay. And I would also throw feminist in there too. So let's take a look. With all of that said, let's take a look at this clip. So you guys can actually, I don't know if Andrew Wilson, like, by the way, check out my interview with him. It was a pretty good one. You guys can check this out on whatever's channel, or on Andrew Wilson's channel. He often does delete most of his debates within like a week of actually hosting the debate, but who knows, it may still be on there. But nonetheless, let's check this shit out. Let's see what they have got to say, and I think it's a good discussion nonetheless.
is willing to do and call out Brian for being an OnlyFans ad agent, figurative porn star by bringing them on. I'll call him out. He's going to kick me off the show because he's a coward, and he will not debate that.
No, you could go. He doesn't need to. You go on the show, and I'll debate it with you.
So this is the kid who is in disagreement of the whatever podcast and Fresh and Fit, and really the Red Pill manosphere, and how they make content. And Andrew is the one who I wouldn't say is defending it per se, but he's defending him going on the podcast as a Christian, because this guy is saying, well, as a Christian, if they're doing this, this, and this, that is counterintuitive to our message, then we shouldn't go on at all. And Andrew is saying, okay, well, maybe that, and that is not the best, but they still have a great audience. And at the end of the day, as Christians, we have to go into the heart of the beast and deliver our message, which I absolutely 1,050,000% agree with.
You like I am right now. Your facts are screwed up. You didn't do even the basic amount of research which was required for you to even make these kinds of insane claims that they're linking to OnlyFans girls and pornography accounts. They most certainly are not. They link to their Instagram accounts. Somehow you still consider him to be liable for what the girls link in their own social media accounts to their other proxies. But that would be true of any show you went on ever. Any type of degeneracy ever where they put any link in the account to a degenerate, which led to another link, right? You would have to bite the bullet on all of that.
It's interesting you're like defending this as a Christian. It's interesting.
It's interesting that you have no argument.
I have an argument.
What is
Just
it?
don't plug their social media accounts because you know that they're.
Andrew makes a really good point there. He's an excellent debater. This guy apparently went on Destiny's channel, and Destiny is one of the biggest degenerates that exists. Not only is he one of the biggest degenerates that exists, but he is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, promoters of degeneracy on YouTube. That will be his legacy. And Andrew is saying that his TikTok or whatever the hell it is link was linked in the description. And so his point to Andrew that the whatever podcast should not link these girls' Instagram links falls flat, which if that is true, I would agree with. That's, I mean, him having, whether he knew about it or not, is an example of exactly what he is arguing against. And this would be an example of hypocrisy. So, but the point is Andrew would say, well, it doesn't even matter because at the end of the day, you're not going on there per se, whether just because or not regarding your Instagram account, you're going on there to spread the Christian message and reach as big of an audience as possible. That is why you're going on there.
OnlyFans links is plugged into social media account.
Right. Just don't promote their social media account is your answer to it. So I'll make sure that I don't support your or don't put in your social media account. Would that make you feel better? That doesn't seem stupid to you?
Am I promoting sexual?
I think you're promoting something that may be even worse than the degeneracy, which is to not engage with the degenerates unless it's on some arbitrary term basis that you come up as headcanon. You should go. You should go. You want to go where the drunks are. You want to go where the prostitutes
Fucking bars from Andrew. Wow.
Are. You want to go where the degenerates are. If you want to convert degeneracy or degenerates, that's where you have to go. And I'm sorry,
degenerates to Christianity,
that it's unpleasant. I'm sorry, it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable.
See, the guy on the left comes far more from a modern Protestant viewpoint of we should speak no evil. We should totally be away from it as much as possible and as far away from it as much as possible. But where that falls flat, that you may be able to do that if you already live within a Christian society. But if the society is already degenerate, as was back in the day in Roman society when Jesus was walking the earth, the only way to have your message heard is to go into the heart of the beast, to go into the lion's den and speak your message. That is the only way that it will be done. That is the only way that this evil will be combated, is by going on their turf and not engaging in their degeneracy, but being within it to spread the message to combat it in the first place and give people an alternative to the degeneracy that they're hearing in the first place. God, Christ is so cool, man.
Comfortable. It sucks. Okay? It can drive you fucking crazy. But bro, here's my lifeline to you. We need you. Like, we really need your help. And we need you to not grab your fucking pearls, right? And cry about some links to some fucking bitches' Instagram accounts. Who gives a shit? We need you there engaging with them. We need you there beating the hell
I was looking around my room for some pearls if I had. Psych!
out of them right alongside of us. That's what we need.
When he stops advertising their sexually suggestive photos as the thumbnails to his videos, he doesn't have to do that. He's advertising them.
Bro.
It looks like an OnlyFans intro video. That's what it looks like.
Bro,
I will say, personally, I think that that's a fair critique. And I don't think that that's the best either. But like I said, Brian or Brixton, those of you who watch that show know what I'm talking about. Brixton doesn't say that he's Christian, but you know, and he didn't even say he's red pilled, but you, like I said at the beginning, you could say that the overall message, the tonality of his show is to expose modern degeneracy and expose things like feminism or liberalism or modern women behavior running amok, that sort of thing.
he also will pull up their Instagram accounts, right? And expose the fact that many of them will consider themselves Christians or tradcons. And then based on the way that they look inside of those photographs, he gives you empirical truths that they cannot be those things. But the best way to demonstrate that is through those photographs. And I'm sure you have no problem with that, right?
I've done that.
Right,
You know
right. You've done that. You're promoting degeneracy.
No, tell the difference. I cross out their name so no one knows who they are. And I don't show their link and I don't show any of it.
They're in the room. So if you were going to confront one of these people directly, even if you cross their name out, we know who the fuck it is, bro.
How do you know if you don't?
Because they're in the room when you're confronting them with the evidence.
You don't let them say their social media account. You cross it out.
And then what happens if they're just in the show and they go, oh, by the way, you can catch me on Instagram at blah, blah, blah.
You blur it out. They have the technology.
They're live, bro. They're live.
Then I don't know.
You're right. You don't know.
Ability to mute. They can't mute things on live TV. I've seen people mute things.
Bro,
on live
you got
TV.
it. You have a 6-second delay. You're going to miss a lot of shit. And not only that, let me point out this other thing, which is that you have no problem with this social shaming. But if you have a person who's in the room with you, and you're literally pointing it out to their face rather than behind their back, which I'm guessing is what most of your exposés are, right? They're doing it to their face and showing it. You think people can't make the connection that that chick and her Instagram belongs to that face when you're in the room with the chick?
How are people watching the video or watching the live stream gonna find her if they don't know her Instagram name?
Man, are you serious? You think that it's hard when a chick who says, my name is fucking Rose Sapphire, to find her on Instagram, bro? Really?
Obviously, if she says her name, but
because most normal people don't have the fucking name Rose Sapphire or Destiny or what's another one? What's another like stripper name or stage name? Fuck. Let's look up. Let's Google stripper names, bro. Annika, Arabella, Ariana, Ariel, Athena, Aurora, Beatrix. Look at this, bro. I can't believe a site like this exists. Bishop, Bebe, Camilla, Blaze, Cameo, Kashmir, Cecilia, Cherish. That's a good one. Delilah, Charlotte is definitely one. Domino, Desire, Desiree. That's a good one. Echo, Fawn, Eliza, Emery, Francesca, Harlow, Harper. That's hilarious, bro. Wow. That's great. Let's keep watching. Let us keep watching this clip.
You got to be able to stop her from being able. You got to mute that. and your
So
life-
you want the other
You just gotta mute that shit, bro.
side to go in, let me get this right, to a dating talk pod show or podcast where they're going to be talking about relationship issues from a adversarial standpoint, and they're not allowed to say their name. They're not allowed to talk about any of just like anything that could possibly lead back to whatever their Instagram is, which isn't even a pornography page, because it could possibly have a link to a pornography page.
So what Andrew's argument is that in order to even get the chance to expose it in the first place, especially keeping in mind that the degeneracy already exists, that you have to do these certain things to pre-qualify to the initial conversation in the first place, or else the conversation doesn't happen. So if you want the conversation to happen, if you even want to be given the opportunity to expose these arguments and these degenerate behaviors and this modern worldview that is bankrupt and illogical and ridiculous, to even be given that opportunity for such a large audience to see it and hear it and experience it, you have to do these things. And so the ends justify the means, and sometimes the ends do justify the means. They do. Now, I would agree, or be more willing to agree with the other kid, if, like I said, we already lived in a Christian society that was far more Christian and good-natured and less degenerate in the first place. But we don't. We live in a super, super, super degenerate society where sexual immorality is at an all-time high. I don't even think it was this bad in Roman times and things like that. Now, it was bad back then too, don't get me wrong, but so given that is what it is, to even have these people come on, you have to concede some ground and just link their Instagram account. Is it really that big of a deal when you put it that way? No. If I were to weigh both of them out, I would put the reach, the possible goodness that comes from the arguments that you're able to engage in. Let me put it to you this way. It far outweighs having people like Andrew on, Candace Owens, Michael Knowles, all these really strong debaters who I like at varying levels. I probably don't like Michael Knowles as much, but Candace Owens is solid. Andrew is solid. The good that comes out of hearing their arguments in the first place, in direct correlation with some of these liberal scrubs with these liberal NPC mindsets, far outweighs the minute minuscule that comes out of just listing an Instagram link. Let's continue watching.
This is your standard.
Yeah. So if you said, sure, you can say your first name and her name is Rose, and the hundreds of millions of women named Rose, how are they going to find her or her OnlyFans?
Bro, if you're the type of person who's going to subscribe to that kind of pornography to begin with, right? I don't think that the girl not saying what her name is when it's pointed out what her social media is, that the person who wants to fap to that is going to suddenly be deterred.
Okay,
true.
if someone is such
I
a
totally agree with
psychopath
that.
weirdo that they somehow use, I don't know what technology to find it, then I guess that's an extreme minority, but you're
Wouldn't
still
you
limited.
consider
You're
all of
still
these
limited.
men who subscribe to all of these OnlyFans pornography girls to be psychopathic weirdos? Because to begin with, the type of man who would subscribe to a woman masturbating on a webcam for sexual gratification, I would consider to be a fucking weirdo to begin with.
I agree with you.
Then I don't see what the deterrent is here, bro.
You're making it too easy by just plugging their Instagram account. It's too easy.
It's too
It's just
easy.
an easy. Is it not?
We
Don't
need
you
to
think it
put
would make
you need to put
it
more barriers in to make sure it's as unfair as possible, so that you can't even have the women come in to have the adversarial conversation to reach the hundreds of thousands of
How
people.
is it unfair if they're allowed to go on and debate their ideology? How is that unfair?
They're going on to debate their ideology. They want to be recognized for it, just like the other people who are debating against it, because that's how you can move your message over to a mass group of people.
Yep.
Again, if you
Absolutely.
think that they're really going on there for a good faith debate to push their ideology, and that's more of the reason, and it's not so that they can get the attention that they're desperately seeking on their sexual content, I think you're being naive.
But you can make that argument for almost everybody who engages in that kind of content across the board, whether they have pornography as their standard or not. I'm going to go ahead and make the assumption that you would like your Instagram to grow, and I sure hope it does. I liked a lot of your messaging. I thought it was pretty good, right? I hope it grows to a gazillion fucking subs and you make $1 jillion. Okay, I hope. But you know, the only way you're going to be able to do that is if people put in reciprocal links, link over to you. You do podcasts with people in order to get your message out there so that you can build an audience to take your message to the masses. That's how it's done. And you do not have a better way to do this. And if you do, I'd love to hear it.
Well, the majority of those girls that go on have like maybe 2,000 followers, if that, on Instagram, and they're there for the sole reason of guys paying for their own.
And you know what? Honestly, there is no hard evidence that these women go on these shows and they receive such a significant spike in followers or revenue. There is no evidence of that. Now, one can logically surmise that, given the fact that they have managers and agents and shit like that, a lot of these women belong to literal businesses that their job is to promote and manage these women's OnlyFans account, and they have men behind the scenes messaging these lonely men. It's a full-blown, full-scale business. Given that that's the case, one can surmise that it does benefit them, because the managers and the business would be able to see fairly quickly if they were receiving a return on investment, aka the investment being going on Fresh and Fit and the Whatever podcast. Now, I would also argue, though, that it would not surprise me in the least if they really also simultaneously, and I would say that this is equally a possibility, if they were if most of the girls were not actually receiving any spike in revenue or followers, and really were just going on the show for the experience, for the clout, for their moment of fame, because women do like to do that as well. And if I had to guess, I would say it's somewhere in between. I don't think all these women are receiving tremendous spikes in their following. I think it's maybe a few that, by and large, most of these women go on these podcasts and are fairly insignificant and nobody thinks anything more or anything less of them. I think it's only a handful that receive a tremendous decline or incline in revenue and followers directly after going on the Whatever podcast or Fresh and Fit. So, it's really hard to say. But I think, like everything, there's always the people at the top who get more or less of it given their performance on a show or any given thing. And then there's the rest who don't really receive any significant spike one way or the other. It's kind of just, they came on the show, they left, and it was neither good nor bad for them. But it would be interesting to see and find out. Now, I'll tell you that after this debate, Andrew had some call-ins, and one of the callers was a guy who's one of the biggest donators on the Whatever podcast. I'm forgetting what his name is, what his handle is, but he is like an older guy, and he called in from like his airplane hangar, but he's definitely one of the bigger contributors to the show. And he said that Brixen has actually been sued by one of the girls because she went on the show and directly after going on the show lost a significant amount of followers. And that would suggest that what Andrew's saying is correct, that these girls go on these shows and they get exposed for the thoughts that they are. And not only do the guys who were not inclined to follow them in the first place continue to not follow them, but the betas who were following them are like, nah, dude, this is not worth it. I'm a fucking loser for following this girl. It's not even a real girl that's messaging me back. And not only that, but they think I'm scum anyways. They think I'm a dork anyways. So that's just a interesting, I suppose, anecdotal story from that guy. Now, is that the case across the board? Who knows?
OnlyFans subscription.
Sometimes I don't disagree that sometimes that's the case, just like when the leftists go on and they only have a few thousand subscribers and they want to promote their degenerate messaging, that they want their link in there to promote their arbitrary degenerate messaging as well. Same thing when Christian nationalists go on there, when Christians go on there, when everybody goes on there, they're trying to push their messaging across the board so that they can build an audience to move their message out into the mainstream. You cannot say that you can make an equal playing field where you can have these ideological engagements, but only one side can promote their value structure. That's crazy.
They're promoting their value structure by the words they're saying. You don't have to show and give a link to easily get access to their porn
Fine.
account.
Then I want you to take all your links down everywhere with any leftist that you've ever engaged with ever, because there's a potential that it might lead back some way to an OnlyFans account, and let's see how fast you grow your fucking channel to get your message out there.
How many
Preach, Andrew, preach.
people have I even debated besides Destiny who I spoke against? I wasn't. It would be a hypocrite if I went on the Whatever podcast and was agreeing with Brian just to debate the women. That would be hypocritical. If I go on his podcast and I say to Brian, "You are engaging with this degenerate culture by promoting these women," that's not the same thing.
No, listen. The other side can easily make the case that you, and they have done this successfully to many right-wing creators, and I'm sure that you've had bans on other platforms due to this, due to leftists in force coming out and saying that your ideology is radical, they don't agree with it, and they want it completely removed from the ethos. And I'm sure that you don't agree that that should be the case. If you want to have engagement and you want to have good faith interactions with interlocutors where you can reach hundreds of thousands of people, then you're going to have to allow the same rules to be applied across the board, even with the worldviews that you don't agree with, or you're never going to be able to have the engagements that you need to have. And that's how you're going to bring the most amount of people to our side. You are a skilled orator. You're a skilled content creator. We fucking need you. We need you on all of these platforms at all times, bringing as many people to our side as possible without driving yourself down on your own sword, because that's insane.
But you see, I try to remain principled. And when I even called out the hypocrisy—
You're not devaluing your principles, bro.
Right, I get it. But what I'm saying is I've crossed out their names. I didn't make it easy. Sure, there are some weirdo guys that are going to be so hyper-focused. I'm going to find her no matter what. Sure, that's a risk involved. But still, I didn't make it easy. It took 2 seconds to cross their name.
Yeah, but you are running a different type of content as well. The content that you're running is to ridicule the opposition. The opposition is not there to defend themselves. Very easy to do that. However, if the opposition were willing to come and engage with you in good faith, you're going to have equal terms, or it's not going to be good faith. Period.
Okay. I mean, I respect your view.
It's a good point. I mean, it's easy when it's only you making the content and you're only speaking into a mic and you're not really going into these hostile debate style programs. It's really easy to wag the finger and say, you shouldn't put that. You shouldn't go on there. You shouldn't, by you just going on there, you're promoting the content. It's really easy to do that. So that's a fair point. Fair point.
I just don't agree that plugging their social media account is necessary. If they have sexual content.
Plugging your social media account's not necessary. But the thing is,
Right.
is that if you want to give representation to both sides who are coming on to a platform to debate their ideologies and to discuss their ideological differences, and you want to reach the most amount of people, you're going to have to make it at least somewhat fair for both sides to make those engagements. You do not do that. Instead, you ridicule these people where they have no option to defend themselves. However, if they had the guts to come on and defend themselves, if they were willing to engage with you, why wouldn't you put their link in the bio so you can have more of those engagements to reach the most amount of people? You want their audience to come check you out. You want their people to see you. You want their people to come over to your channel to hear the alternative message. You want that shit. In fact, one of the biggest things which was happening last year all over Twitch poll, which is where this degeneracy all is that these people all over left-wing media were saying that you cannot platform Christians at all because of this very effect, that people would leave Twitch poll and go check out their channels and they wouldn't come back.
I totally agree. The biggest problem that Christians fall into or conservatives fall into is not being able to have platforms to get the message out in the first place. That's the biggest impediment that we have, because the left and this, for lack of a better term, secular society owns everything. They own every major institution, every major company. They are not Christian friendly. They are not conservative friendly. So the biggest problem is getting the message out in the first place. We're suppressed online. We're suppressed on YouTube. We're suppressed on Google. We're suppressed on Facebook. All of the major platforms, we are suppressed. So be that as it may, that's the roadblock. And not only is it the roadblock, but we're driven down. You have to take advantage of every opportunity that you're given. Hell yeah, if Destiny's going to have you on, you should absolutely go on and spread your Christian message. Absolutely.
And it's like, bro, you want that. Okay? You want that. That's part of equal representation. As a speech advocate, I don't even see how you can make the argument against that.
Well, because I would say, sure, I'd want that. It's a temptation. Let's say there was a huge OnlyFans model that was a huge feminist and she had 8 million followers and she was willing to debate me and it was going to give me a lot of clout. You're right. I would want that, but I'm a Christian first and I'm not going to give into that.
You're not violating your principles. Because all things which are evil, God uses for good.
Amen.
Okay? And you going on to a massive platform that has millions of people who are subscribed to a single OnlyFans woman, right? They're not going to unsubscribe because you're not there. They're going to unsubscribe because you are. And you're not violating a single principle or Christian ethic by doing so. In fact, you're reinforcing what I want to see the most from Christians, which is balls. You're going right into the fucking lion's den, and you're doing battle. And that's where we need you, bro.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I'm just standing firm. If there's sexual explicit content is there, you know what they want. You know what those women want. They want attention on their sexually suggestive photos. They want validation, and they want subscribers to their OnlyFans. And I'm not going to give that to them. And I think if all men as a collective did what I'm saying, they would be in a drought.
I know what they want.
Of course, if all men did that, we'd be in a better place. But that's not reality. That's not going to happen. That is complete wishful thinking. And it just is. I mean, and the only way to get to that is for the message to be heard, to expect and just say, well, if only men did this tomorrow and just turn the light off, then it would be thus. Okay, but when does that ever happen where you just speak into existence? If only they just stopped doing this, it would be thus. If only men decided feminism was nonsense tomorrow, feminism would be gone. Well, yeah, but how do you get there in the first place? It takes years and years and years of the message being heard in the first place. Okay. That's how you get there.
But men are collectively not going to do this, and the same simps who would be going and subscribing to these women's OnlyFans accounts are already subscribed to other women's OnlyFans accounts or pornography, unless they're a very small minority. You have a better chance of utilizing their much larger audience and reach, of reaching those people and pulling them out of that, than they do capturing your audience. They're not going to capture your audience. No fucking way. No fucking way they're going to do that. You're going to be able to capture some of theirs, though. You're going to be able to win the hearts and minds. That's what it's about. And we need you. We need you. We need all of you to help us in this endeavor, because it's one of the most noble endeavors we can really commit ourselves to. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we need you to walk right into the fucking lion's den with your sword and put that motherfucker down. We need that shit. Not sniping them from your channel, right, in an echo chamber, but to their faces, right in their face. This is the truth. Fucking deal with it. That's what we need. Now, I understand that you say collectively there's a possibility that if all men retracted all support from this, it would end tomorrow. You're right. In a hypothetical perfect world, I agree with you. But we're not living in that world. And when we apply this to the real world, we know what a fucking simp is, and we know that porn addicts are not going to just suddenly flee because there's no pushback. They're going to flee if there is.
So do you think if the whatever podcast, instead of putting the thumbnails that they put something that just displayed what that episode was about without showing their sexual explicit images, you think they would lose followers and lose views?
I think that they may, but let us assume for a second that it brings in the most amount of clicks. Okay, even from Christians, it brings in the most amount of clicks. Okay, you still have the most opportunity to reach the most amount of degenerates with that. You really do. You have the most amount of opportunity to reach the other side. Your audience is not going to be captured by the degenerates, but you can capture them. And what I see this as a distinction in approach. I understand that you're trying to stand on principle. It's respectable when people try to stand on principle. But here's the thing. There's a lot of Japanese men who committed seppuku because they were standing on principle, and it would have been way better to have had them go into battle. It may have turned the tide many times. One of the biggest problems in World War II was seppuku and kamikaze pilots, too willing to be too self-destructive to be able to be effective in their job of defeating the enemy. And that's what we need you for. We need you to do that.
If you said, you've been saying that if I were to go onto one of their platforms and their links are displayed for their sexual content, they're not going to win any of my followers. I think that is absolutely untrue. I think there's a number of my followers. First of all, when I speak against Red Pill, when I speak pro God, I lose thousands of followers. I lost one time 4,000 followers in a week when I spoke against Red Pill and I spoke for God. A lot of the guys in this space, whether it's the Red Pill space, the manosphere in general, are hurt men that were either hurt from dating or hurt from the education system, social media, society, you name it. And they have pain and they're looking for a solution, but they like to watch people like me dunk on the feminist ideologies. And they're like, oh, I feel a sense of retribution. Finally, thank you. But the moment I give them a call to action, stop watching porn, stop engaging with thirst trap content, and date with the intention of marriage, I get unfollowed. So a lot of my followers actually would give in to that temptation and click the link and follow them. Unfortunately.
Yeah, but so wait a second. I need you to think about what you're saying, though. You're saying that even if you cover these issues, they're going to unsubscribe from you, which would indicate to me that they're already engaged in those activities to begin with.
So why would I make it? I mean, I don't know. Probably. Most likely they are engaged.
I mean, probably.
I'm still against
so that's
it,
what I'm
though.
saying. I understand that you're against it, but where can you capture the most amount of these people? It's going to be on the largest platform you can get on. And when you're on that large platform, it's to make an argument, and the most brutal arguments you can, to completely destroy the opposition's worldview so you can pull the most amount of people out.
All right, guys, that is it. Great debate. This is what it's all about. See, and this is what I'm all about. I love diving into these discussions and hashing them out and let the best idea win. That is how we get to a place of legit understanding and transparency and transcendency. So I loved it. Like I said, I do have sympathy for where he's coming from as a Christian, and I can see why he is offended and wishes that it would be a certain way. But just because your initial response is that way doesn't mean it's necessarily realistic or probable. Um, as you saw him say multiple times, what he think ought to be versus what is reality, oftentimes were two separate things. And so we can, as Christians, and this is really what Andrew was saying to him, we must work within the framework that we are given. We must work within the society that we were born into. If we don't, then we will fail. If we don't find a way to do that, then we will fail. And our message won't be heard. And I completely agree with Andrew that God does find a way. Absolutely, or else God would not be God. You cannot put limitations on God. God absolutely knows how to turn even evil into something that is good and wonderful and beautiful. All right, guys, like, comment, share, subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. The channel continues to grow because of you kings. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy willow and facts or feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. Love you, kings. See you guys next time. Christ is king. Peace.